This video is going to go over the best Modern Warfare 3 multiplayer settings. It's also going to go over basically the Warzone settings as well, which is going to be very, very similar. So let's get straight into this. We want to get through this as quickly as possible. So when it comes to input device, obviously you want controller. When it comes to the button layout, you want to set this to default. I think default's the best, to be honest. And that is because now the dive and the slide is the same button. It should allow you to map slide and dive to different buttons, to be fair. That should be a really good addition if they added that in. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So I do think just default, unless you have a specific controller that lets you have paddles on the back and anything else, then you can change this about. Then we've got bumper ping. Personally, I play with that off. I don't flip the triggers to the bumper buttons. You can do that. It gives you a bit faster response time. I personally still like using the triggers, so I just get used to it that way. Stick layouts default, controller vibration off, trigger effect off, input dead zones. You need to set this based on your controller. So basically what you can do is put the dead zones all the way down, see where you get stick drift, and then basically adjust it based off of that. So that is going to be personal to your controller. Then when it comes to actual aiming sensitivity, you want to keep these exactly the same for both vertical and horizontal. But what I would recommend when it comes to actually sensitivities, you want to do 5, 6, 7, or 8. Stay within that range. Anything higher than 8 is quite fast, to be honest. I know people play on like 2020 or something, but that is for really weird players or really exceptional players. But for the most part, 5, 6, 7, 8 is where most people want to play. Sensitivity multiplier, you don't really want to change this too much because it doesn't really make too much of a difference. Vertical aim axis, again, don't really touch this. When it comes to tactical stance sensitivity multiplier, now if you are using this, and I'll explain what I mean by this, then what you do want to do is actually turn it down a little bit. I'd probably recommend about 0.9 just to make sure you are a bit more accurate when you are using this. Remember, it is kind of similar to hip firing, so just keep that in mind. Aim response curve type, I prefer dynamic. If you don't like dynamic, just choose standard. Linear is the worst option to use. Basically, the difference between dynamic and standard is that you can snap between targets on dynamic a little bit easier, so that is why I prefer it. When it comes to the ADS multiplier focus, you want to leave that as it is. You don't want to change it too much. When it comes to the ADS transition timing, you want this instant. So basically, when you pull the trigger, you want it to ADS as fast as possible. That's kind of the whole point. Custom sensitivity per zoom is where you do actually want to change this. Now, low zooms, I recommend between 0.7 and 0.9. That's going to come down to personal preference. Personally, these are the settings I play on. And then when it comes to high zooms, which is going to be sniper rifles, and because they will be one-shot now, or they will hopefully have some one-shot snipers inside Warzone, hopefully I'll get back onto actually using some of these. And you do want to make sure the sensitivity is slightly higher, and the reason for that is because when you're swiping across the screen, you want it to be really quick, and you feel the kind of aim assist kicking in when you're using the controller. Aim assist, target aim assist you want on. I'm using Black Ops. I think it feels the best. Default or Black Ops, both are probably the best two options here. And then third person ADS correction type, I've just got a standard. Motion sense behavior, you want this off. That's if you've got like a gyroscopic controller and you don't really want to be using this. It's not really a good setting to have, to be honest. When it comes to gameplay in general, this is some of the ones that you will need to play around with a lot. So I'll quickly go through the ones that I use because this is going to help more with movement side of things. So if you do like to have fastest possible movement, then this is what's going to help you with that. So automatic tactical sprint, you definitely want this turned on now, especially since slide cancelling is back in this game, so that is ideal. Auto move forward is off. Single tap to sprint. Now, I used to have double tap to sprint on, but with this game in particular, because it does have a slow kind of reset in between actually like slide cancelling, it's not the same as Modern Warfare 2019. Single tap to sprint does feel a little bit better to me personally. So it means you don't need to keep clicking your analog stick as much, so it does feel a little bit better. Grounded mantle off, automatic mantle off, automatic ground mantle off. Tap to slide, obviously you want to make sure you can slide more than you can dive, because diving is still kind of pointless, to be honest. So make sure tap to slide is on. Like I said, I wish you could kind of map these to different things, but you can't. Plunging is free plunge. Parachute auto deploy is only when you're in the plane. After that, it won't auto deploy. I mean, you can honestly turn this off completely. It doesn't really matter too much. I think for players that have been playing the game for a long time, like to get close to the ground, then turn it off. Sprint door dash definitely on. Ledge climb behavior is mantle only, and the reason for that is because you want to be able to control your own movement. You don't want it to be basically because you're sprinting, it's going to basically mantle you over an object. Slide cancel sprint is on, so you want to make sure you can obviously slide cancel and crouch as well. Aim down sight is hold. Tactical sprint focus, just keep that the same. Equipment behavior is hold. Then we've got the weapon mount activations, ADS melee, delay short, tactical stance activation. Now I have this turned off because when I was playing the beta, I wasn't really using the tac stance at all. Now, what I did test is that it does work while sliding still, so you can still shoot and slide anyway, so which is good. So it just means that you don't by mistake press the down on the D-pad when you're aiming and it changes your aim and that kind of thing. And I didn't really find any scenario where this tac stance shooting mechanic actually worked out better than just hip firing, to be honest. So I have it turned off. If you do like it, I think the down button is probably the best option, to be honest, and that's the easiest one to do with the mappings. So that is the one I would go for if you do use it. And if it does become meta in the future, then obviously this is the one I would be using. Prioritize interact is what you want. Armor plate behavior is apply all, because you want to be able to move and apply your armor plates. The backpack control is directional buttons. You don't want to use anything else. I think it's a lot easier to kind of do it that way. Depleted ammo switch is off. Quick detonation for C4 is grouped, because that will mean it will deploy all of your C4s when you try and do the quick detonation. Manual fire behavior is hold. Now, this is press or hold, and this is for semi-automatic weapons. And this basically gives you more or less like an automatic feel to a semi-automatic weapon, because all you need to do is hold down the trigger and it'll fire the weapon. Now, it doesn't give you the fastest possible fire rate though, so just keep that in mind. So if you do have a fast trigger finger, then you're probably better off with press. However, if you are kind of just in that medium range of fire rate and you just want to keep it consistent, then hold is probably your better option, and I prefer this, to be honest. I think it just makes much more sense to me. Short delay for vehicle camera recenter, free look, lean out activation is melee, and then everything else is kind of set to default, to be honest, when it comes to gameplay stuff. Next up, we're on the graphics settings. We're going to fire through this again really quickly. Full screen borderless, make sure your monitor is selected. Then you want to make sure you've got your graphics card selected. Then when we have the aspect ratio, just make sure it's the correct one. And then obviously you want to make sure the shaders are installed as well, because otherwise your game will spaz out quite a bit, to be honest. Then we do have this all set to defaults. Brightness for me 60. I just think that's the best. I have that set since like Modern Warfare 2019. Haven't really changed it. Have constrained mouse to game window off. Reflex low latency is on and boost. When it comes to eco mode preset, I have that set to custom. VSync gameplay I have set to 100%, and that is just because I'm on a low refresh rate monitor right now, and that is just because I'm playing on a different setup. But when I'm on my main setup, I do have VSync turned off sometimes, to be fair. So it just kind of depends on what you're actually using. So custom frame rate limit I do have set to 60, and in focus mode I have set to 90%. Now, I'm not 100% exactly what this does, to be honest. Display black overlay around game window when the game is in focus. Again, I've not really noticed exactly what this does, to be fair. So I've just got it set to 90, and once I figure it out, I'll probably turn it off. Graphics preset, you do want it set to custom, so you can play around with it, of course. That's the whole point. Resolution is 1080p on this one. On my main setup is 1440, but again, it just depends on what your monitor is. Dynamic resolution I have off. Upscale and sharpening, again, I have off. I just want to play with the best that my PC can output. Sometimes upscale and sharpening does help. I think the Fidelity FX Cast was the one most people were using back on Modern Warfare 2. And this can still help, so obviously you can use it if you really want to, but for now, I have it set to off. VRAM target 80%. Variable shadowing, I've had this turned off because it does play around with the shadows and just makes them really, really weird. In game, it just doesn't really make any sense. Texture resolution, I have set to low. You can also go down to very low, but I think low or normal is where you want it. Texture filter anisotropic, again, you want to set to normal. Depth of field off. Detail quality, I've got set to normal. Particles, normal. If you've got obviously like really, really high-end graphics cards, you can set this to high if you want. Bullet impacts you want on. Persistent effects off. Shader quality, medium. On-demand texture, you want this off, definitely. Local texture, you want low. When it comes to shadows and lighting, you kind of want to set this kind of medium. So you've got normal for shadow quality, screen space, shadows are low. You don't want to turn this off though, because it'll make the game look a bit weird. Ambient inclusion, I do have set to both. Now you can also turn this off as well, but it kind of just adds shadows to moving and static objects. Screen space reflections does look nice, don't get me wrong, it's really cool, but again, I have this set to normal. And then I've got the static reflection set to low as well, so just kind of medium settings more or less for everything here. Tessellation I have set to all. When it comes to terrain memory, I've got medium, volumetric medium, deferred physics low, water normal, water quality off. And then when it comes to the view, this is kind of some of the more important ones. So you do want depth of field of view, sorry, to be maxed out. That's personally what I play on, or anything between probably 90 and 120 is ideal. ADS field of view, you want this as affected, so this is going to make sure your field of view still stays high even when you're ADS. Weapon field of view, you do want this wide as well, again for the same reasons as before, you want to make sure you can see as much as possible. Third person field of view, I've got this set max as well. Vehicle field of view, again wide. Motion blur, weapon blur, film grain, everything you want all as low as you can possibly go for all of this stuff here. Spectator camera, you want game perspective, you don't want to be sitting on that helmet cam thing. And inverted flashbangs I have set to on, and this is going to make sure that your flashbangs are black instead of white, so sometimes it can be a bit annoying and it takes a while to get used to, but it is a lot better in my personal opinion, so I do think that's what you should be playing on. When it comes to the interface settings, again, this is going to be very personal preference up until color customization. Now again, this is also going to be based on if you're actually colorblind or not. And then obviously you're going to need to adjust this accordingly. But for the most part, if you do not have any impairments, then I recommend Filter 2, which does make the game look a little bit better. And then you want to have it set to both. And then these are the intensities that you want to be using it with. I think this is ideal. It just makes the game look a little bit nicer in general. HUD bounds I do have set a little bit closer, and that's just to make it a little bit easier to view. You don't need to move your head too much. So I want to keep that set as it is. Minimap square always, rotation on always. Compass on or off, I mean it depends if you use it or not. Crosshairs definitely on, obviously. Hit markers, you definitely want this on to make sure you're hitting your target. Damage based hit markers, again you want on. Player names abbreviated, that is just personally my preference. In-game text chat, you can turn this on or off, it's kind of personal preference there. And then the rest is all for connection things, which you obviously can turn off if you really wanted to. So there we have it, those are the best settings. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, and thank you very much for watching.